Briefly as acting secretary of the DFA when the ad interim appointment of the late Perfecto Yasay Jr. was rejected by the Commission on Appointments in 2017.
Manalo took his oath before Marcos in Malacanang on Friday. He replaced former Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr.
But the president has yet to appoint secretaries to lead key positions, namely in the Department of Health, Environment and Natural Resources, and Energy. Time for the day's biggest headlines. I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. In his first day as President of the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. appointed another cabinet official under his administration.
For the details, we have Marlene Alcaide reporting to us live from Mabalacat, Pampanga for an update. Marlene, what was the President's itinerary like today?
Gretchen, in his first day as president of the country, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Appointed another cabinet official under his administration. Yeah, you're right. And it's been a busy day today for the President Bongbong Marcos. Marcos began the day by attending a mass presided by Cardinals Jose Advincula and Orlando Quevedo. Aside from the president's family, Vice President Sara Duterte was also there along with other cabinet officials. Marcos then administered the oath-taking of his newly appointed Foreign Affairs Chief Enrique Manalo. Manalo, who replaces Teddyboy Locsin, was appointed by former President Rodrigo Duterte as permanent representative of the Philippines to the United Nations in 2020. He also served briefly as acting DFA secretary in 2017. After Manalo's oath-taking, Marcos graced the Air Force's founding anniversary celebration at the Haribon Hangar at Clark Air Base in Mabalacat. Air Force Commanding General Connor Canlas Sr. welcomed the President. Air Force units, officers, and enlisted personnel who showed exemplary performance in service were also given recognition.
Today's event is perfect time to recognize our nation's continued enhancement in air strength over the years. The air capability that we have used and continue to employ in our national effort towards nationhood.
In his message to the Philippine Air Force, Marcos Jr. acknowledged the contribution of the Philippine Air Force not only in protecting the country's territory and airspace, but also in responding to calamities. The Air Force says they need more help in terms of modernization so that they can protect the country's airspace better. Marcos agrees, saying enhancing the Philippine Air Force capabilities is one of his administration's priorities.
A more modern aerial and surveillance capability is all the more felt given the territorial disputes that we in the Philippines are involved in.
Robbie, Gretchen, Philippine ambassador to the U.S., Babes Romualdez, meanwhile confirmed that the Marcos family will stay at the Buhay Pangarap in Malacanang where the former presidents lived while in power. Robbie, Gretchen?
Marlene, did President Marcos say anything about other appointees, DOH, DNR?
Robbie, no definite time or day when will the other names for the other departments, such as the Department of Health and the Department of Energy, will be announced. The camp of Marcos has been saying that these are important departments and that they need more time to decide on who is the best person to appoint in a certain position or department. I guess we'll just have to wait, but we are hoping that by next week they'll be able to finalize and name these new appointees.
Marlene, has President Marcos shown or said anything with regard to his first 100 days in office?
Gretchen, he's been saying that he would focus on agriculture and food sufficiency and plans about energy supply and a comprehensive, inclusive plan for the country's economic transformation and invest in infrastructure, but nothing really specific about his first 100 days in office as of now. I remember his former spokesperson And now Executive Secretary mentioned in one of his press conference that they'd rather focus on his last 100 days rather than his first 100 days. So let's see if in the coming days he'll mention specific plans for his first 100 days. Gretchen.
Maraming salamat. Thank you for those updates. That was Marlene Alcaide reporting live from Balacat, Pampanga.
Meanwhile, other outgoing cabinet secretaries also turned over their departments to their respective new chiefs. We start with the Department of Transportation, which welcomed its new secretary, Jaime Bautista. In a turnover ceremony in the DOTR Clark offices in Pampanga, the former president and chief operating officer of Philippine Airlines stressed his goal to elevate the country's transport system to global standards. Bautista promises accessible, affordable, comfortable, and safe transport service throughout the Philippines. Bautista also said the DOTR will continue Duterte's Build, Build, Build program. Meanwhile, the newly created Department of Migrant Workers begins its first day. The DMW says it will release a joint circular with the Department of Labor and Employment to identify the shared and sole functions of the agency. But even without any approved budget and staffing pattern, Secretary Susan Ople promises to implement several reforms under the new department. The Department of Labor, DMW, is set to become fully operational by 2023. And Delfin Lorenzana has also officially turned over his D&D responsibilities to the new Secretary of Defense, Jose Faustino Jr. In a virtual ceremony, Secretary Faustino vowed to fulfill the mandate of the D&D. He is set to take over national defense matters, including the communist insurgency and the West Philippine Sea conflict. Faustino was unable to attend the turnover ceremonies in person after he tested positive for COVID-19.
These are the other big stories tonight. At least 10 areas in the Philippines are seeing a spike in COVID-19 positivity rate, including Cavite, which saw the sharpest increase this week from 5.9% to 13.2%. The Meralco Balls will have to face their upcoming games without Coach Norman Black as the coach takes an emergency leave. And tuloy-tuloy lang ang serbisyo. Former Vice President Leni Robredo officially launched the Angat Buhay non-profit, which will continue the projects of the Office of the Vice President. These big stories after the break.
Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The COVID-19 pandemic is still around and cases continue to climb. This week, 10 areas around the country saw an increase in their COVID-19 positivity rate.
The Octa Research Group says Cavite saw the sharpest uptick from 5.9% last week to 13.2%. Metro Manila's positivity rate is also continuing to climb. From 6%, it's now at 7.5%. Aside from NCR, the group also saw an increase in Laguna, Pampanga, Batangas, Benguet, Bulacan, Iloilo, Cebu, and Davao del Sur. The World Health Organization's benchmark to determine that the transmission is under control should be lower than 5%.
Meanwhile, a health expert is urging government to allow more groups to receive the second booster shot of COVID-19. VEP chairperson Dr. Nina Gloriani says those who are not immunocompromised but are taking maintenance medicine should be eligible to receive the second booster shot. Gloriani also suggests bringing the age of eligible vaccine candidates to include 50 to 59-year-olds.
And we have with us Vaccine Experts Panel Chairperson Dr. Nina Gloriani to tell us more about her proposal. Dr. Gloriani, welcome po to The Big Story.
Yes, good evening, Robbie and Gretchen.
Dr. Gloriani, every time we talk with DOH and other experts, but the DOH in particular, when we ask particularly about this proposal to expand those who should get the second booster, they always say, we go by science. And they say that so far the data does not necessarily say that it makes that much of a difference when it comes to people who are not immunocompromised and who are not 60 and above. But are there latest data here to make that argument more compelling?
Yes. Well, of course, we monitor publications, whether preprints or even press releases. And we have very, very good data about the vulnerability of people who have a number of comorbidities. So someone who has one comorbidity and is taking a particular maintenance med, for instance, versus someone who has 6 up to even 10. There is such a study, and I actually provided a copy to the FDA, only for information. So also for the 50 years to 59 years, which we have not included in the second booster, the US CDC already allowed it for their population. I think they're also considering that some of these people here, 50 and above, also have a lot of comorbidities. And now we're considering this uptick in cases. And I wanted to ask, we really do not know if these are new cases or reinfection. So if they are reinfection, they're probably due to the yung reported na BA.4, BA.5, and 2.12.1. So we're seeing this uptick in cases because of these variants. And plus, of course, we're also looking at waning immunity again. COVID-19 or the SARS-CoV-2 virus is very, very different from all the other, from many viruses or even microbial agents that we have been studying. So the immunity wanes so fast. So whereas in other infectious diseases, the immunity lasts longer than 1 year, 2 years. This 1 month lang, no? So we're talking about waning immunity.
Okay, so just to be clear about the proposal, I'm sure people are looking and asking what's the difference. The proposal is one, ibaba yung edad from 60, now we cover people from 50. And also, iba ang immunocompromised sa merong comorbidity. So we're expanding now to include also those with comorbidities. Now, question po sa inyo, you're saying that this could benefit. Is there any reason to be cautious about this? Is there any risk, whether logistically or in terms of effects?
No, in terms of effects, I don't really see much problem. No? The safety data from these boosters are good, no? Logistically, I'm not really very sure. We first have to ramp up the first boosters. We still have to run after about 40 million people, I think. Because we know that it's very clear already that we need 3 doses at least to protect us because of waning immunity and to give us broader protection against these variants of concern, especially the subvariants that are now circulating in our country.
Maraming salamat po. That was Dr. Nina Gloriani.
For the big story in sports, one of NBA's biggest superstars wants to change teams this summer. Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets wants out and has requested a trade from the team. The news of his request came hours before the beginning of NBA free agency and just a few days after his fellow star in Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving, opted into his contract for the 2022-23 season. Now, according to reports, Durant's preferred destination is either the Phoenix Suns or the Miami Heat. The Nets have also been reportedly working with Durant to find a trade partner. Over in local hoops, the Meralco Bolts will have to face their upcoming games in the Philippine Cup without Coach Norman Black around. Coach Black is leaving for the United States to be with his sick mother and is uncertain when he will be returning back. The multi-titled mentor says he was in Baltimore, Maryland a month ago and his 85-year-old mother was doing all fine back then. Now, in his absence, lead deputy Ronnie Magsanok will handle the team as they look to improve on their current 3-3 record. Time for another quick break. More big stories when we return.
You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Tuloy-tuloy lamang ang serbisyo. Despite having left the office of the Vice President, Leni Robredo continues her projects to help the poor.
From a campaign battle cry, Angat Buhay is now a non-government organization. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to this story.
No longer is she the Vice President of the Philippines. But starting Friday, attorney Leni Robredo is the chairperson of the Angat Buhay non-government organization, which was officially launched today in their volunteer center in Katipunan, Quezon City.
Hindi man tayo nagbogi, nagtagumpay pa din tayo. Dahil I am sure lahat kayo would agree with us na we really started something very, very special during the campaign.
Going back to her roots as an NGO worker, Robredo said, Angat Buhay will focus on 4 things: health, education, disaster relief and rehabilitation, and community engagement.
Ito yung pinakaunang inisyatiba natin, isang nutrition and food security program na dala ng pag-aambagan ng mga katuwang natin ng mga LGU, volunteers at private partners.
Angat Buhay was the flagship program of Robredo. In the last 6 years, she was vice president, catering to the different needs, especially in far-flung communities all over the Philippines. Now, they hope to do it better as the biggest volunteer network in the country. Their NGO is also a registered corporate already. Bad news is, the name Angat Buhay has already been taken back in the early 2000s. While appealing this, their corporate name will be Angat Pinas Incorporated.
But the program will still be called Angat Buhay.
But more than its anti-poverty programs, Angat Buhay serves as a beacon of hope to their supporters, just like Melise.
Ayun na talaga yung last resort ko para sa maniwala sa good governance and then para matulungan yung ibang tao.
Robredo said she will continue working in Metro Manila, where the Angat Buhay headquarters will be.
Nasa sa atin po lahat para sabihin na hindi tayo failure nung eleksyon. Naging matagumpay tayo kasi because of the campaign, we were able to start the spirit of volunteerism all over the country.
While managing her NGO work, Attorney Robredo remains to be a figurehead of the opposition, as she also intends to continue the fight against disinformation. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
The 1 peso fare hike increase for jeepneys in Metro Manila and 3 other regions, that starts today. But while some jeepney drivers are thankful for the hike, others say the best solution is still to reduce the price of fuel. Greg Gregorio has this report.
This is a common scenario in Cubao, Quezon City. Jeepney drivers tirelessly shouting to get more passengers to make sure that their vehicle is full. And amid the soaring fuel prices, they found some sense of relief that the latest minimum fare hike is now effective. They said this would ensure additional income.
300, mga ganun. Pambibili pagkain ng saka ng anak ko.
Hindi pa namin masyado nararamdaman. Pero nakakatulong ba yun sa'yo? Makakatulong na yun.
However, others believe the increase is not enough.
Birain mo yung 5 ikot namin, nagdidiesel kami ng kulang-kulang 4,000. Nakikita namin yung gross namin, tapos binabawas namin lahat yung mga expenses. Kulang talaga.
According to the latest minimum fare increase approved by the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB, minimum fare for traditional public utility jeepneys is at 11 pesos. Minimum fare in modern jeepneys are now 13 pesos. This is a 1 peso increase in NCR, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Mimaropa, and a 2 peso increase for jeepneys in all other regions. In this terminal in Katipunan, drivers wrote a big notice on their blackboard as some passengers are still not aware of the fare hike.
Hindi naman mabigat sa amin na kaunting tulong lang din sa kanila.
Sa driver.
Opo.
Okay lang po kasi tumaas na rin yung gasolina eh. Para naman sa driver kami naman masahe din po. Kaya kailangan din namin bayad ng tama.
Others, however, are feeling the pinch since they're also trying to make ends meet. PUJ drivers are now asking the government to come up with an action plan to address soaring oil prices for the long term. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Meanwhile, it's going to be a rainy weekend. This as Tropical Storm Doming further intensifies, affecting the southwest monsoon that will bring rain in parts of the country. Tropical Storm Doming was last spotted 975 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon, packing up maximum winds of 75 kph and gusts of up to 90 kph. TS or Tropical Storm Doming is moving northward at 15 kilometers per hour. Pag-asa says Tropical Storm Doming further intensified but is not directly affecting the country. However, Doming and Kaloy are instead enhancing the habagat. Cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms will be experienced by northern Luzon as well as Palawan and Occidental Mindoro. While Visayas will have partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. Doming is expected to leave the Philippine area of responsibility on Sunday afternoon but could become a severe tropical storm in the next 36 hours.
Sumakabilang buhay, hindi naman. Try sumakabilang kumpanya.
In a now viral TikTok video, one transportation department worker made sure that he will be remembered by his co-workers. Baynard Fernandez made his final day in office feel like a wake. Now, this included a funeral PowerPoint, food for his co-workers, and even a makeshift bottle as an urn.
Together with his fellow employees at the DOTR, Ruel was given a cake with the words, "Run free!" And to cap off his goodbyes, a door in front of Ruel was closed, similar to a casket.
Si Jester De Los Santos,
Oo.
bakit walang ganyan?
Dapat pala ganyan ang handaan natin para kay Jester.
Ano ba naman yan? Aming executive producer, Jester De Los Santos, who is serving his last day with us here on The Big Story.
We wish him well in
Meron
his
ka pa
new...
memories?
Ha?
Memories kay Jester?
Wala. Yung sana, kung nagkaroon tayo ng lamay, pwede sana ako nakapagbigay.
Nagpakain naman siya kahapon. Pero syempre maraming salamat sa ating EP. Bago lang ako dito.
Baka
pero,
sa susunod niyang programa, sa susunod niyang adventure, baka may pabinyag tayo.
Ay, pwede.
Galing
pwede,
kayo.
pwede. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng tinuro mo sa akin. Diba?
Maraming salamat, Jester.
That wraps up today's Big Story. Catch us again on Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.